NCIS, Origins Episode 12 focuses on an underappreciated member of the cast, resulting in an emotional story. The show has had a decent run so far, exploring the origin story of Leroy Jethro Gibbs, Austin Stoll, as he gets his start at NCIS. The offshoot was advertised as the story of how Gibbs' journey at NCIS began, and yet the NCIS, Origins cast introduced new faces whose stories are just as significant as his. In the NCIS, Origins premiere, Mark Harmon's older Gibbs says in his narration that the prequel is Lala's, Meriel Molino, story, but it has yet to really delve into her character. NCIS, Origins Episode 11 focuses on Mike Frank's, Kyle Schmid, backstory instead, as fans learn about his childhood and family life before joining NCIS. Touchstone takes a similar approach, revealing more about Dick Kowalski, Michael Harney. 10. Gibbs and Kowalski discover someone broke into the NCIS evidence room. Someone stole $41,000 from NCIS. NCIS, Origins Episode 12 starts with narration from Mark Harmon's older Gibbs character retelling the story his mom used to tell him about a little field mouse. At the same time, the episode shows Kowalski, who runs the NCIS evidence custodian, baking a loaf of sourdough bread before showing up bright and early to the agency. However, when he arrives, Kowalski makes an alarming discovery. Someone broke into the NCIS evidence room. Luckily, Gibbs is also at NCIS bright and early, as he clears the office for perpetrators. Mary Jo is shocked to hear about the room when she arrives, finding Lala and Franks investigating the scene as Kowalski gathers things off the floor. The invasion of his workspace tears up the evidence manager, and he gets frustrated as the other agents cause further disorder. The agents assume that whoever broke into NCIS came for the $41,000 someone stole from the safe. NCIS, Origins explores Kowalski's time in Korea. NCIS explores Kowalski's origins. As the agents process the scene, Kowalski's assistant, Herm, Daniel Bellamy, shows up and understands the severity of the mess. Herm repeatedly says to his colleagues that they need to get everything back in order, citing the need to get the evidence log together and do the morning roll call. At the same time, Kowalski momentarily loses touch with reality and experiences a flashback. It shows a young Kowalski walking out of what appears to be a prison and looking up at the sky. The young Kowalski clutches something in the flashback, a rock that accidentally got kicked into the corner where he lived as a war prisoner in Korea. Later, as Kowalski listens to his recordings that report the 2 years spent as a prisoner, flashbacks show the day the stone got kicked into Kowalski's corner. His tape explains how everything was taken from him and that the stone was all he had. It describes how Kowalski interpreted the stone as the first of many things he would have after being free. 8. Kowalski resigns from NCIS after the mishap. The break-in upsets Kowalski. As Mike Franks and his team process the scene in the evidence room, things get out of order. The disorder boils over as the NCIS K-9 dog, Gary Callahan, causes further disarray. Kowalski yells at everyone to give him the room so he can take a moment to himself. The evidence manager is shaken up, sitting on the desk and staring at the chaos alone. While the other agents try to decipher what happened, Kowalski closes himself in. When Kowalski finally emerges, he carries a yellow notepad with his resignation letter to Cliff Wheeler, Patrick Fischler. The letter has pages of detailed notes that Kowalski's colleagues say reads like a 25-year history of the agency since Kowalski started. After Kowalski's resignation, the agents wonder how the evidence room will be reorganized without his expertise. However, despite Frank's call asking him to return, Kowalski stays at home and replays his darkest days as a prisoner of war. 7. Lala's past fling returns. Gibbs and Lala discuss romance. The agents think that the dealers whose cocaine money was taken by NCIS might have come back to reclaim their cash. Lala and Gibbs visit another called Dalton Basement, Jeffrey Berm, who tells them that everyone who was busted is behind bars, except for an associate called Flaco, Scotty Tovo. Dalton tells Lala that the confidential informant she calls Black Kenny, Rafael Castillo, might know where to find the man who evaded their bust. After Black Kenny tells her where to look, Lala and Gibbs stake out a park where Kenny says they can find their guy. When Gibbs and Lala make contact with Flaco in the park, the man Lala cheated with the night she went out with Vera and Mary Jo jogs past the special agent and stops to say hello. The greeting causes a tense situation as Lala sends Gibbs to talk to Flaco, as they try to maintain a peaceful conversation with the suspect. Gibbs refers to the encounter later, asking his partner if he should put Lala running into Eddie, Hector Rivera, in his report. Gibbs assumes Lala's one-time lover is her boyfriend, prompting her to confess they broke up. 6. Gibbs and Lala find evidence that breaks their investigation. Lala breaks the case. Flaco's tip leads back to the case from NCIS, Origins Episode 4, saying that whoever is responsible for the missing ES money also had something to do with giving away Mildred's location. Gibbs tells Flaco that the hitman responsible for taking out Mildred, Jesse Hatcher, is dead. However, Flaco is convinced of his intel and tells the NCIS agents to look around. Back at NCIS, Frank sends Gibbs to ensure maintenance has properly sealed the window where an intruder broke in. When Lala comes down to check in on Gibbs to get a maintenance update for Frank's, Lala notices some odd scuffs on the floor while they are talking. Upon further inspection, Lala believes that the marks are from a ladder, which flips their case on its head. Lala and Gibbs' development suggests that the criminal who took money from the NCIS evidence room came inside the building rather than breaking in from the outside. The discovery is the development needed to break the case, since Frank's team can narrow their investigation to hone in on those at NCIS.